I was my dad was a Democrat in New York City. Over the years, though, to me, I think Democrats are an evil right wing party, and the
Yeah,
Republicans are psychotic
yeah,
fascists.
they're off the grid.
And the thing is, if you look at like most political issues, whether it's gay rights, whether it's abortion rights, whether it's uh, U, UBI, whether it's anything, the forgiveness of college debt.
Oh,
Um,
that'd be a nice one right now
Most
for me.
people, there's something like a 60% minimum support for that around the country, across the
Yes,
country, and yet why do we end up with people like Biden and Trump? It's because of the money. Uh,
and
where are actual left wing politicians? These people who run as Democrat. Bernie Sanders would be considered right of center in fucking
yeah,
Europe. And
yeah,
I didn't like Sanders because I knew he was a
yeah,
phony. I knew he didn't have the balls.
yeah,
He for example, you probably know he won every single county in West Virginia, but the Democrats gave the state to Hillary in
yeah.
2016.
Oh yeah.
It was a total fix. So when some
Uh-huh.
asshole like Trump talks about fixed elections, in some instances he's true. He's a
Yeah,
beneficiary of that every bit as much
yeah.
as Hillary Clinton.
Oh, he wouldn't have been. Look, I think it goes back to you're talking about parties, and they're basically a right wing neoliberal party, and the Republicans, I agree, are off the grid, and about half of them are even fascists now. I would say, which a lot of people get mad if you say that, but I think it's just the truth. If you look at the rhetoric and the way they talk and look at their issues, like for example, here in Saline County, one of the main issues I had to write about last year was there was a lot of people who would come to the quorum court meetings and talk about books they want taken out of the library. And for 2 hours, they'd stand up and read from these books that would be about, a gay kid or a black kid, and they would say this teaches people to hate white people, or this teaches, teaches kids to be gay. Even they would call people who supported these books groomers. I think I heard one guy equate in the same sentence pedophile, groomers, socialists, and communists at one point. He used all those lines describing the people who support, not censoring libraries.
Well, another thing that gets me is I try to not be that political when I'm talking about when I'm doing these kinds of interviews. But for
Yeah.
example, a few years ago, this website called Quora, solicited me to
Oh
like
yeah.
write answers for shit. So I never seen them before, but I've done it, and I'm constantly getting into arguments with people about the Israel Palestine
Oh
shit,
man.
and I'm definitely pro Palestine. I'm not pro Hamas, but
Yeah.
to me,
Same.
Israel is the last colonial state left around. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, they talk about like, oh, 6 million, never again, whatnot. And that's the biggest lie in history. How many fucking genocides have there been in the last 80 years since the end
Oh
of
man.
World War II? And
Oh
no one
man.
does a thing. The
Yeah.
world doesn't police it. We don't care. And even putting that aside,
Unless there's something there that we might, a
well,
power
yeah.
vacuum or
But
a
but
oil.
But even that, it's interesting. And here's an interesting fact you should look up. Since 1946, the first full year after the Second World War, in every single calendar year, as far as I know, up until 2022, I don't know if 2023 stats are already
Right.
in the book. More people die and get injured permanently at work than in all the wars in all those years combined. So if you went to 1953, more people around the world get killed and get injured to the point they can't work anymore, not as soldiers, but as
Yeah.
workers. And people
Yeah.
overlook that. And here in the US, countries that we conquered, like Japan and
Yeah.
Germany, have stronger unions than this
Right.
fucking country. And
Yeah.
every single president since the 1970s, and I put most of the blame on Ronald Reagan. People talk, Trump is a piece of shit. The Bushes were pieces of shit. I didn't like Bill Clinton. I don't, and I regret my 2 votes for Obama.
Okay.
I voted for Ralph Nader 3 times. I voted in 2016 for the Green Party. I voted Socialist
Okay.
in 2020. But ever since then, they have screwed the working class, and
Right.
it's fucking ridiculous. And I mean,
So
Yeah.
I think, I read Tumbleweeds, and I think one of the things I really liked about Tumbleweeds is how well you depicted that screwing of the working class. And, I think the Manny Cole character is your doppelganger, and his father in the book is, works at the post office, and he's a union guy. And
He actually drove a medical van for the New York City health department, and that's the same in the book, I believe.
okay. Well, in the book, I thought he worked for the post office.
Maybe I did change that. I know in my true life memoirs, maybe I did.
Yeah.
It's been almost. It's been 2011 since I wrote, and people
Yeah.
say, "How do you not remember this stuff?" I said, "Do you know how much I fucking write?"
Yeah. I
People.
want to get into that at some point.
I'll get interviews where people will say, back in 2003, you wrote this thing about Tom Cruise or something, and then I saw someone you says that it was one of the better performances. And I'm like, well, you put it on. Tom Cruise is a terrible actor. If he gives a passable performance, it's not a good performance. But people.
What about Magnolia?
That was an okay movie. I mean, I think
what about his performance?
I didn't think that was particularly good. The two performances that I think are passable of his are Eyes Wide Shut, where he basically plays a mall zombie, which is what he is.
Great, Eyes Wide Shut.
And then the other one was the Spielberg one, Minority Report, where he's actually.
See, I don't like Minority Report. It's like
Well, I think the first 3/4 of it is a good solid sci-fi film. The last 25% goes in the toilet.
I think just like it gets a little like when he walks into the room, he's doing all this stuff with the tech. It looks like Spielberg just got a little overzealous with the special effects in some of those scenes, and I just, to me, it kind of took away from a great story.
The thing though, that's a Philip K. Dick story, I think.
Right.
And the thing is, every Philip K. Dick adaptation that you watch is better than the Dick story. Because Philip K. Dick had no understanding of the human condition. He wrote
Do Androids Dream of Sheep, right?
He
the
wrote
Blade Runner books. He wrote the Blade Runner books.
Philip K. Dick, did he write Blade Runner? Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah,
I've read that. Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
You're right.
I mean,
that's not as good as the film.
Him, someone like Harlan Ellison, both of them as sci-fi writers were better. They were idea people. They weren't. They didn't have any. And for me, and just to, like, one of the things with characters is you have to get behind the character's eyes, because all character is plot. Plot is character. If you read Moby Dick and you're entranced by it, you're not giving a fuck about the whale. It's about the people on the Pequod. And I don't mean to. I'm not looking to slam it. But one of the things with your screenplay that I found that was not good was all of the characters seemed to be very bland, and I've seen them before. The mother. There were a lot of scenes where the mother of one of the boys, was it Allison? Is her name?
Annabelle.
And she's like, fuck. I was just watching a video. I was just watching a
Great
video.
advice, by the way. I'm rewriting the script right now, and I'm taking out so many fucks.
But the thing is, what it reminded me of, and I mentioned the old No Country for Old Men, and that whole kind of Coen Brothers kind of thing. This actually. The mother could be a very Erin Brockovich type character in trying to find the stuff, but she became a stereotype very early on, and I think if you're gonna have the scene with the boys, that was actually not a badly written scene, but you don't put that right up front. What if you have the mother digging for the truth? At some point, 90% in should come the revelation of what happened, and how she gets it, I don't know.
So I've been rewriting of some of your advice. I think I wrote a little bit. What am I at right now? I'm at 19 pages, and I took your advice, and I just wanted to try without that opening scene with the boys.
Yeah.
And so I tried, and I opened with the train wreck now, and I show a little bit more of the police arriving after it happened. And I show a little bit more of the crime scene, essentially, after it happens.
And I remember you asked in the email, there's 4 or 5 scenes at the end of the film or the screenplay that
Yeah,
come after the revelation. And I'm sorry, but I forget what actually happens in the
that's
last
fine. Yeah.
in the thing. But I think one of the things that you need to do is you have just one scene after the climax where they're coming together. There's a I was talking about this on I do this series of TV shows and the history of TV with a fellow the last year. We were talking about The Fugitive, not
Oh,
the
that
movie,
sounds
but the
good.
1963
Yeah.
TV series, and
Yeah.
that ends very powerfully. If you have the Criterion Channel or you have something, you can watch the last episode of
Yeah.
that. Watch out because this is a 4 year series. It was the highest rated show in the history of television.
I know the Fugitive.
Yeah,
For
okay.
sure. Yeah.
So I think if you end with a powerful maybe 90-second to 2 minute long scene, boom, because you don't. One of the things that with any fiction, you don't want to give away too much. Only give what is necessary, unless you have unless a character is just naturally chatty. I just watched this film called Portrait of Jason from 1967. It's a black and white film from Shirley Clark, this documentary filmmaker. It's about this gay black guy who just goes on and on for almost 2 hours talking. And the first half hour is okay. The rest of it gets over repetitive because he's not really creative. He's a poseur, and so it ruins that way. But
I'm surprised it didn't come out this year, is the way you're describing it.
what? Oh,
I said I'm surprised it didn't come out this year the way you're describing it.
But so there are things, and this just came to mind. Even though yours is a screenplay, one of the ways, if you're ever in a bookstore and you're thumbing through books and you want to know if this is a book worth buying, look at the last page and the first page of the chapter ending and the chapter openings. Because if you're not given a good ending, something that makes you go off, and if you're not grabbed in the first. You have to have like super glue holding these things together, because someone once said, I think it was a filmmaker, I think it was what's his name, the guy who did the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, John Huston. I think John Huston once said,
that's one of my favorite films, by the way.
I think John Huston once said, a great film, you need to have 5 or 6 great scenes, and then just everything else can be average. You have a great film. And in a sense, he's right. But anyway,
what do you think about The Treasure of Sierra Madre?
I think it's a good, solid film. I'm not a big Bogey fan. I'm much more of a James Cagney guy.
Okay. I feel like it's one of Bogey's better performances, though.
It is.
And Houston's dad is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, John Huston himself, if you really want to see a fucking great performance, one of the best on-screen acting performances by John Huston. Watch The Other Side of the Wind, the Orson Welles film.
The Netflix one. That was good. Yeah, I watched it. That was good.
I mean, and the thing is, and I've told all the people in the Cosmoetica circle, I said, the thing about this, you watch that film, it is so fundamentally different than what he did 30 years before with Citizen Kane. He in the 1970s, he's doing 21st century filmmaking in the 1970s. There, the most quick cutting is just bullshit. Sucks if you look at the Michael Bay's, the action stuff. But here, he's cutting 2 or 3 seconds for reactions. You get characters that maybe only have 60 to 80 seconds on screen, but but in the 4 or 5 scenes, they make one little comment or something that sets the Houston character off, and you understand their relationship. And I have to say, I don't think there's any film. I could make a good argument that Orson Welles is the greatest filmmaker of all time, not because of Citizen Kane, not because of Kane, but if you go from the 60s or 70s, have you ever seen, for example, Chimes of Midnight? He takes a Falstaff, one of the lesser Shakespeare characters. Wells understands Shakespeare more than Shakespeare did, because I can tell you, while I think Shakespeare is certainly a great writer, he's not the greatest writer in the English language.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would agree. That's fair. Othello's another great one. I love Orson Welles.
Yes,
Othello.
but even that one, while it's radical, is not as radical as
Yeah.
what he does in Chimes at Midnight. Not as
Yeah, I
radical
agree
as
because
what he does with
yeah,
the one with the magic stuff. And then,
yeah,
you know, I'm hoping. What I'm hoping, I'm hearing
because
things online that in the next few years that they have like 85-90% of the Don Quixote film that he
oh
made that they could put together. Because that if that's as good as those two films, Chimes at Midnight and Other
yeah,
Side of the Wind, I mean, what he could do, and even something like Mr. Arkadin in the '50s,
yeah.
with
The
limited
complete
budget.
the final version, not
Yeah, yeah,
the original cut,
yeah,
but the
yeah,
final
yeah, yeah.
cut
The
is yeah,
restored version, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did more for the art form uh, than anyone else. And this look, Kubrick, Kurosawa are phenomenal filmmakers in their own right, but
Absolutely.
both of them had carte blanche. They could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah,
This guy, Wells, after the first film, had to
yeah,
go sucking dick for the
yeah.
last 40, 50, 40 years of his career as an artist just to make these films. And if you look at like Chimes at Midnight at the low budget, the scene, is it the Battle of Agincourt that it is? I forget. But the scene there it is shot at eye level with handheld
Oh, the
cameras.
battle scene in
Yeah.
that film,
I mean,
absolutely incredible,
yeah.
and so ahead of its time, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And so, I mean, you know, there are great filmmakers. Woody Allen in his 15-year run from 77 to 92.
I just rewatched, as you said, Woody. I rewatched Hannah and Her Sisters
Oh,
recently.
yeah.
That's a great film. Uh,
Cassavetes was great.
I like
Kubrick
Cassavetes.
Kubrick was great, and there's two or three other ones. But in reality, there's Wells and there's everyone else. At least
Oh, interesting.
definitively within the American film, Wells is the greatest American filmmaker. Period. Kubrick is nipping on his
Where do you have
heels.
Scorsese?
The early stuff, like Woody Allen, the last 30 years, he's been repeating himself, just doing shit. I saw
I
bits
think
of
his newest film is one of his best in a while.
which one? What?
Killers of the Flower Moon came out
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
I haven't seen that. The last one that if you look at a lot of the guys from the '80s, another one, Oliver Stone, in the '80s and
Oh,
'90s, he was killing it. And then it just went in the tank. He did that football movie, and
no, that one's terrible. And I don't even. I'm not even as big on some of his earlier films. He made. Did he make Platoon?
yeah, I'm not big on Platoon. It's a good, solid movie, but
Yeah.
it
Do
doesn't
you like
compare.
JFK?
JFK is I think a great film, but
Oh.
the best one I would say, well, the three big ones, his three best films are JFK, Nixon, and The Doors.
Okay, I have seen The Doors. I haven't seen Nixon. I would agree The Doors is a great film. JFK, I haven't seen it in long enough. I watched that when I was really young. I was
And
probably about
if
13
you
years
like
old.
The
I went
Doors,
to, you live in Texas, right?
yeah.
So I'm sure you've been to where JFK was shot.
No, I
You've
haven't.
never
I've
been.
been in Dallas, but I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
it's a cool spot, really cool museum. I went there when I was young, and after that, I like went on a freaking tear.
if you watch and enjoy The Doors, Val Kilmer's performance, a film he did with Vincent D'Onofrio, The Salton Sea, from the late
Oh, I haven't
'90s
seen that.
or early O's. That's an excellent film. Another
Yeah.
one you should watch is The Limey. It's the best film by Soderbergh. It's a phenomenal performance by Terrence Stamp as
Okay.
as anyway. But we're getting too far afield.